Mindfulness, awareness, presence. How can all of these things help us to be more successful, to be more relaxed, and to experience life to the fullest? Well, today in this interview, we're going to dive into just that.
Welcome to Thriving Launch with Louise Congdon and Kamala Chambers, the show for heart-centered entrepreneurs who want it all.
5 days a week, we bring you different segments to inspire you to live a life of freedom. We interview the leading experts in the field of business, health, and love. Be sure to check out Training Tuesdays, where we give you a clear action plan to grow your own business.
How would you like to be able to interview world-class experts, sit down and have chats with people like Jack Canfield, Marianne Williamson, Robert Kiyosaki, Tim Ferriss, you name it? Would you love to interview other people that you really admire and consider to be your heroes? Well, we've created a course for you that teaches you how to podcast, how to set it all up, and how to get going so that you can really have a successful show and you can do it properly. Over at thrivinglaunch.com, we have a podcasting course, and it's there for you, waiting for you to snatch it up. So head on over to thrivinglaunch.com and let me teach you how to podcast the right way. Along the same veins of Eckhart Tolle and the power of now, we bring to you our guest, Loch Kelly. He's a licensed social worker and therapist. He's a author who wrote a great book called Shift into Freedom, The Science and Practice of Open-Hearted Awareness. He was named the top 10 best books of the year by Spirituality and Health magazine, and one of the best spiritual books of the year by Spirituality and Practice. Loch Kelly is an educator and psychotherapist and recognized leader in the field of meditation and mindfulness. He's also someone who works with neuroscientists at Yale, looking at how mindfulness and awareness practices can bring more peace and compassion into our daily lives. So let's bring on Loch Kelly onto the show.
Loch, it is so great to have you on the show to share your gifts with the Thriving Launchers. Are you ready to launch into it?
Sure am. I'm glad to be here.
This is a really special interview for me, guys, because we're talking about something that's not something that I make public all the time, but it's so special and important for me. And it's a real opportunity and invitation for all of you listening right now. It's an invitation to slow down, because I want to dive deep into something that's special. I've had these experiences in life, and maybe you can relate to it, where you have this experience where you're just sitting and maybe you're drawing or you're walking, but something happens where you feel really at peace. And nothing in your life has really shifted. You know, you still got the bills. Maybe you still have some friends or family members that are upset about something. You still have, quote unquote, the problems. They're still there, but somehow it feels like everything has evaporated and you're just here. And you're not sitting in the muck or in the problems. Somehow you're just completely at peace. And this is what I want to talk to you about today, Loch, is why do these moments feel like accidents? And then I want to go into the possibility that we can recreate, or that we can tap into this energy or this space, this being, that we can tap into it and come back, and it doesn't have to be an accident.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yes. I mean, I, like you, began having these kind of unintentional glimpses of this other dimension of consciousness that was so peaceful, so loving, and also wondered the same things. And in some ways, I've spent the last 30 years really curiously exploring, both going to many meditation teachers from wisdom traditions, studying in school, and lately even working with neuroscientists to really figure out what changes are happening when certain shifts happen. So that peace of mind is, my experience now is, it's actually the natural condition. It's our natural state, or what's called source of mind or nature of mind, or awake awareness, a dimension of our intelligence that's prior to thought, that once it's accessed includes thought. And eventually you actually, from there, while you have peace of mind, can use thought very creatively and be fully in your body while not getting caught up in either the chattering mind distraction or a sense of a small egoic sense of self that feels, fearful and worried. And this is an amazing dimension of our natural human consciousness that's really not on our map in the West so much. And certainly there aren't that many ways or instruction manuals into how to shift into it.
Whenever I've gone into that space, and I'm sure a lot of people listening, I'm sure that you can relate to this, is that you go into this place that feels very peaceful, feels very wonderful, and then it just kind of disappears. And it totally miffs you. Like, why did it go away? I remember being in middle school, and riding the bus. I have this memory, Kamala, of being on the bus and feeling really at peace. And I'm like 12, 13 years old and going, man, this is like, I feel it. I feel this kind of opening in my mind. I just feel at peace. And then soon
you got to school, didn't you? And then it changed everything.
Usually this was leaving school. But what I'm trying to say is that at some point I would start feeling this sense of like, God, please don't let this feeling go away. Like, I know it's going to go away because it's happened before. Please don't let it go away. And what's really striking to me is, this conversation can feel really esoteric right now. And yet with books like The Power of Now and Eckhart Tolle, this stuff is, we're not talking about something way out there. Oprah totally fell in love with Eckhart Tolle stuff. Jim Carrey fell in love with it. And this is what we're talking about today, is this presence, this being in the now.
Yes. Yeah. So the possibility that I also had moments like that as children, and I think many of those listening must have had moments, and we pass right over them, though, if we discover them. I remember a time when I was young and would have moments like that, and I thought to myself this kind of funny thought. I thought, oh, this is what adults must talk about, because this is so important. But but of course, that was thinking that was coming from that peace of mind, because adults aren't talking about this. But now the hope is that adults and children can talk about this, that we can not treat it like it's esoteric or as if it's only for the fortunate few, or that it's only through grace or luck or through virtuoso practice of meditation after 30 years. It literally, my discovery and many wisdom traditions report that it is the natural dimension of consciousness. This kind of awake awareness is the fundamentally available to each of us. And it is actually, as each of us is discovered, not to even be a state that we're experiencing as if, oh, I'm this small thought-based self that's having this experience of peace of mind. The discovery that's amazing is, oh, I'm this peace of mind to which sometimes these contracted states appear. And that's the big shift, is to kind of, use that hypothesis that what if it were that this is essentially my natural state and these other conditions are altered states, where I walk around in an altered state and we can learn to kind of dehypnotize from the trance of the ego.
There's so many things in our daily lives in this culture that are driving us away from really being in our bodies, being mindful and being aware of what's happening moment by moment, even sitting in front of a computer, or, the different overstimulation of the senses that makes us kind of numb out. And I find that taking time to slow down and step away and breathe deeply and notice what's happening within my own body and within my own environment taps me back into those moments of awareness, what's actually happening right now in this moment. Now, that's one perspective. That's one way that has worked for me, that has worked for many people that I've worked with in the past. And I'd love to hear, what are some ways that you encourage people to access more of themselves and more of the moment?
Yes. So those are traditionally and initially often the best ways, is to slow down, simplify, quiet, calm, focus, retreat, step away from movement in order to not be as caught up. But then the interesting thing is that even then you can really only get to kind of a peaceful ego if you're working from the kind of effortful attempt to quiet and calm and find this dimension of consciousness. The reason I think most people don't find this peace of mind that Luis was talking about and that you're talking about is that thought can't find it. The effortful personality that's looking for it can't remain as it is and get there. Our will can't make it happen. That it requires literally a different kind of awareness that's not attention, that's not mental focus, that's not concentration, that's not even just the initial stopping or being aware of the moment. It almost requires as if we're living in a small storm cloud of our thoughts and emotions. We literally have to unhook awareness from thinking and either drop down below or step out to the side or go above or pull back all the way out of our thoughts into this big sky awareness. And then in finding a way to do that, it's almost like merging with this peace of mind. So at first it seems like, oh, I'm aware of this spacious awareness. And then the curious question could arise, or is it that I am this spacious awareness that's aware of itself and aware of thoughts, feelings, and sensations within me? So that kind of shift of a different kind of direction of looking and the way you're organizing yourself is kind of what the word surrender or let go or turn over or discovering something beyond just trying to clean up the cloud of your mind or calm it down. It literally takes stepping out or disidentifying. That's a very particular movement of consciousness.
You know, one of the things you're really making me think about right now is my experience when I lived in a yogic ashram. And prior to going into the ashram, I had some very beautiful meditation experiences that weren't trained. I had no idea that that there was a possibility that I could feel so happy or so at peace. And then I went into the yogic lifestyle and into the ashram because I was searching for a way to maintain and hold that state. I was searching for some kind of practice or way of being unorthodox, essentially, to fall into. And I struggled. I really struggled following the yogic lifestyle. And I found that the more that I went into the regimens and the belief systems, the more that I actually struggled to feel at peace. I had this sense, okay, if I wake up at 5 a.m. every morning and I meditate for 1 hour and I do yoga exactly the way that they tell me, and I breathe the exact way that they tell me, and I eat the way that they tell me, then I'll finally feel at peace and it'll all be worth it. And then I actually started to feel like I was almost like torturing myself and actually cutting off some of my natural inclinations. I wanted to have a relationship. I wanted to explore life in different ways, but I thought that by holding myself back that I would be happier. Now, this isn't to say that for everyone this was the experience. For some people, it is the perfect way for them to be. But I've found that regardless of who it's for, what you're talking about that really strikes for me anyways, is that the more that I tried to control and have this experience, the farther it felt for me.
Yes. Beautiful. I think that's right. I think your story is a very dramatic one, and there's other subtler versions of that point to that it's not about the effort, and it's particularly not about the efforter. So it's not about the seeker. It's almost that the first real movement is letting go not only of seeking, but the seeker, and stepping out of the doer that has been, with great intentions, trying to do it right, trying to be better, improving, trying to thrive. And that knower and doer can do certain things and improve many levels of life through effort and through discipline. But this particular dimension of consciousness that we're talking about, it doesn't apply here. It literally requires upgrading the knowing and the center of identity by letting go of the old one, finding a way to not kill the ego, not fight it, and eventually you see you don't get rid of your personality, you don't become nobody on the level of your humanity, but there is a way of stepping out of this small sense of self that is a looping pattern of thought that seems to most people feel like it's behind your eyes looking out. And that location just keeps self-perpetuating, almost as if there's a little entity in there that's trying to get free. And it almost feels like it's perpetually dissatisfied. And so when you drop out of that project of perpetually solving the problem of this little mini-me, you can discover what's here that shifts the felt sense of identity. In fact, just one simple inquiry, since you asked about how to do it. So with that premise that there's this little sense of a felt sense of a doer that's trying to solve problems on the level of identity, but because it's made of thought, it can never get any satisfaction. If it just relaxes for a moment and have people, whoever's listening, just look with your awareness, you can just ask yourself this simple question. What's here now when there's no problem to solve? So just understand the question and just let it go into you, into your mind, but then let go of the project of problem solving with nothing to do and nowhere to go, and let your awareness feel and know what's here. So what's here now when there's no problem to solve? When you don't look up to thought and don't go down to sleep, what's aware, what's absent, and what qualities of presence are naturally arising?
Thank you so much for inviting that space and that spaciousness. That's what it really is an invitation to create more space for yourself, for your mind, for your heart, for your body to exist. And Thriving Launchers, I know that we are people of action. We are people that want to solve problems, that want to create a lot in the world. And and so to take away the problem solver, and it doesn't have to be all day. This is not about being lazy. It's about creating more space in those moments. And even if it's just 5 minutes, wouldn't you agree, Loch, just to take 5 minutes to ask that question?
Yes. And what the paradox of this, which is really what this is all about, it's that in order to be able to be more interconnected and to be thriving and to be in the flow, you almost have to let go of this other part of you that's self-sabotaging. So what we're doing is we're letting go of the little separate sense of self, this kind of false self or mini-me. When it doesn't have a project, then people describe that they drop into this spacious awareness, into their body. So you actually start to feel your body from within. And then you feel like you've dropped from head to heart. And now you're in your heart mind. So there's a new motivation. And this is kind of where people who are in the zone or in the flow, who actually optimally work the best with the less stress, live, is in what I call open-hearted awareness, which is the highest functioning wisdom capacity that isn't kind of having the gas and the brake on at the same time. You're really in the flow. You're able to be, your emotional intelligence is even available. There's a sense of non-fear, non-worry, non-shame, and then you can kind of create and relate from here as well as anywhere.
And that's the trick, isn't it? To create more, to be able to work with ease, to work with peace, to work as a holistic being rather than with just operating from maybe our heads or the problem solver or these limited aspects of ourselves. This is so beautiful, the way that you've shared it. Are there any tips or practical things that we can incorporate? I know you gave us that beautiful gift of that question, but something else that we can incorporate into our daily lives to help practice and embody this more?
Well, I mean, certainly people are welcome to kind of constructed and kind of reverse engineered a lot of these advanced practices from wisdom traditions and broke them down into contemporary kind of step-by-step series of shifts out of the current consciousness into this open-hearted flow. So people are welcome to go and listen to the audio of my meditations or read my book, which describes it more.
And we'll have links over there for anyone, all of you guys listening over at thrivinglaunch.com. We'll have links for everything that you need from today's episode, extra resources, and everything so you can get in touch and connect with Loch Kelly as well. Go ahead and continue, though.
Yeah, so one, besides that, problem solver. So another one, just a simple shift, would be literally to see whether your awareness, which tends to be hooked up to thoughts behind your eyes, what would it be like if you just did a simple shift from head to heart? So just simply, even not knowing how to do it or what it might be like to do it, just unhook awareness from thinking and have the awareness know directly your breath from your nostril, and then have your awareness drop and know your jaw directly from within your jaw and your smile, and then have your awareness drop and know your throat directly from within your throat, and then have this awareness, which is the location of knowing, continue to drop below your neck into your heart space, into your upper body, and just feel as if you've shifted down. So now you're actually knowing and feeling from this kind of open-hearted, spacious, embodied, soft, and wise place where you have the potential to know. If you needed to know information, you could, but you could also just remain at home in your heart and kind of have information from the office in your head come to you by Wi-Fi. So you just rest, and from here you're able to respond.
This is a really beautiful, beautiful practice that you're talking about, and it's so simple. And one of the things that I really enjoy saying and thinking about is simplicity is a sign of mastery. So it's not complicated, it's simple. And yet it's one of the best ways to master, to be in this state or in this space that we're talking about that is very peaceful and blissful. One of the things, too, that I want to mention for all of you listening is that they've actually done studies on this when people actually just take their attention from their thoughts and take their attention over to their heart and into their breathing. And what actually happens, what they've done over at the Heart Math Institute, and they do a lot of research on things like this, is that they found that your brain is operating at certain megahertz, your heart is operating at a different kind of wave. And what happens is actually your brain waves will actually slow down and match that of the heart. And then what actually happens to the whole nervous system and the whole body is it relaxes and it slows down. And what we know is that a relaxed state is actually the most powerful state. So, bringing this into martial arts, I know as a wrestler and martial artist that the more that I can be relaxed during competition, the better that I will be at responding and having access to quickly respond or react or respond. But that comes from actually slowing down and focusing on the breath more. And there's a certain kind of space that you need to enter. It's a very beautiful state. In all practices, physical practices, they talk about this, from yoga to sword fighting. This is a very beautiful practice to do so that we can have a better response to life. And I just want to thank you for the practice, for the exercises, for the conversation. Loch Kelly, it's been a real pleasure to have you here on the Thriving Launch Show. Everyone, make sure to go over to thrivinglaunch.com, and we'll have all the resources there for you to check out his book and some of the other resources that we think that you may enjoy as well. Thank you so much. Kamala, do you want to close us out here?
Loch, before we go, is there any last words of wisdom that you want to leave the Thriving Launchers with?
Yes, I just would say, encourage you to, my feeling is that people can awaken and live from an open-hearted awareness dimension of consciousness in the middle of an active life. So I have no doubt that awakening is kind of the next stage of human development, and more people will be able to access this intentionally and be able to grow and develop and support each other in this very restful but active way of being in the world with each other.
Thank you so much for giving us more resources to do just that. You've been listening to the Thriving Launch podcast. We'll make sure to include all the ways to get in touch with Loch, and make sure to pick up his book. We have links to that for you as well. All right, everyone, keep being successful, breathing deep, and feeling good in your body.
You've been listening to the Thriving Launch podcast. For books and resources related to today's episode, make sure to head over to thrivinglaunch.com. We'll see you there. Be sure to check out the next episode where we're going to talk with Luis and me about how to launch a podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate us on iTunes and subscribe.